Meanwhile, we'll take a question from this gentleman here.
Yeah, I'm Hanan, I'm a GP and I'm also a member of the Health Informatics Clinical Advisory Team at NHS Northwest. Really excited to hear you talk about empowering patients, empowering clinicians and improving outcomes, and absolutely with you with that. In our own practice, we've now got over 1,100 patients accessing their medical records. As a GP here, I'm very excited and very empowered knowing that I've got 1 in 10 of my patients who can access their records and see what I've written. The question I'd like to ask you is, what do you think we can do, besides me doing my seminar at 1 o'clock this afternoon? What can we do to get 1 in 10 people in this room to get access to their records in the next 3 years, and in so doing, try and make that happen across the country?
Well, we will respond shortly to the consultation we've had about information and how we can drive an information revolution in the NHS. I think one of the central tasks is for us to enable patients to have direct access, including control of their electronic record. Now, of course there are issues. You know, we know that we don't have a single patient record. You have a record for your patients, but in addition to that, there may be, for some patients, maybe a dozen hospitals that have got a hospital record. It's going to be a very long time before those are all fully integrated. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't make progress. And for your patients, the fact that they have a relationship with you and your record of them is in fact, as it were, the driving record in the system, should enable them to be more confident that this is important, that they are participating in that. Because what's accurate in their record with you is also likely to be what's accurate in terms of commissioning for them. I think we can deal with the issues relating to security and talking to the NHS. I think we can deal with those. But I think the public have got to get in an understanding that we're giving them their record, but actually it's up to them how they then use it. And they may want simply to know it and to talk to the NHS. They may want to share it. So, for example, people might want to go into healthcare systems with value-added providers out there who then enable them to use their record as a basis upon which they manage their own care and do so in a more preventative fashion. Then we begin, all of us, to take a significant benefit from that happening. But this is a process, I mean, heaven knows, I don't know how many applications there are on an iPhone now that are health-related, but I bet they're measured in the hundreds now, not the tens. So the idea that the public will not apply themselves to healthcare issues using their patient record online is nonsense. They're bound to do so, because they're doing so in almost every other walk of life. We just have to make sure that we facilitated that to happen.
And final question from this lady here.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask kind of question from the opposite perspective around the gentleman who asked about stroke and new baby cooling. I work for a PCT where we're trying to support secondary and community care clinicians to introduce telehealth technology into the respiratory pathway, but our local GPs actually don't want that to happen and are trying to block a pilot scheme. How will the new commissioning system support innovation that's driven from community and secondary care if primary care are not quite on the same page?
Well, we all know that if you want to deliver the best possible care for patients, we have to have a conversation that embraces the patient's general practice, plus their community provision, plus their secondary provision. We know that has to happen. And indeed, the structure of commissioning is designed to make that happen. I mean, in a sense, what you're describing is part of the nature of the problem I hope to overcome, in that there has been a tendency for general practice and primary care trusts to see themselves as separate organisations. What's really going to happen as a consequence of this through commissioning consortia is bringing that together so there is one commissioning voice with one commissioning purpose. Now, we then have to make sure that we design along patient pathways more effectively. Because if you look back to care closer to home pilots and the analysis of those done by the Primary Care Development Centre in Manchester, it was perfectly obvious that the benefits from redesigning patient services came when primary care and secondary care did it together. Because patients want it to be accessible and local, and they want it to have the benefit of specialist expertise. I mean, as one physician in Leeds rather amusingly said, you ask the public what they want, and the answer is very straightforward. They want a world-leading specialist in their GP at the end of the road. Well, we can't do that for everybody, but we can try to make sure that we have actually networked together properly. And it's that conversation. There is no easy way around this. It is that conversation between general practice, community and secondary provision to design a new pathway of care on the evidence that has to be the basis upon which we commission in the future.
Quick final point. You are clearly extremely knowledgeable and excited about the changes that are happening. Do you ever have a moment when you're just a little bit scared?
You asked that one before.
No, well, no.
Do you know what? I think I'm in the same place as an awful lot of people that I talk to across the NHS, which is that I think it is very exciting. I personally am very enthusiastic. I meet people who are enthusiastic. I meet large numbers of people who are anxious. I think it's a bit like, if you're going to do anything in life that is important, you generally start out thinking this is exciting, but it also makes me anxious. And I think we all should do that. But I think it's that process of worrying problems, the necessity of thinking it through, that is also part of how we can make this a success. I don't think I've got the answers. I mean, the point of being Shadow Secretary of State for 6.5 years was not to think that I know what we should do under every set of circumstances. Actually, what it led me to the conclusion was that the best way in which I can avoid making mistakes is to try and ensure that the people who really know about how to deliver better care for patients, that's the meeting of experts, the patients and the clinicians looking after them, that more of the responsibility transfers to them. Because otherwise, a few years down the line, it'll just be my mistakes will follow somebody else's previous mistakes. I don't want that to be the case. I want the genius of the masses, in this case, the masses across the NHS, to be the people who drive the modernisation and improvement in the NHS in the future.
Secretary of State, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Thank you.